disturbing footage appears to have been taken in hell itself. A skyscraper-high column of fire burning non-stop over the sprawling Southern Urtabulak gas field, consuming millions of cubic meters of precious natural gas each day. It was one of the worst man-made disasters in modern history. Birds and insects, mesmerized by the unending light, spiraled into the inferno, their remains incinerated in midair, never touching the ground. Artillery, water cannons, and cutting-edge engineering contraptions, the desperate Soviets threw everything they had at the column of fire over 3 years. Every effort failed spectacularly, triggering new craters and unleashing toxic torrents of gas. The fire seemed unstoppable. With no options left, they turned to a final, unthinkable solution. They would fight fire with nuclear fire. The disaster unfolded on the night of December 3, 1963, when the situation in well number 11 in the Southern Urtabulak oil field spiraled out of control. Drilling operations reached a depth of 8,038 feet when they encountered an area of abnormally high-pressure natural gas, pressures exceeding 300 atmospheres. Making the situation even more volatile, the gas contained alarmingly high levels of hydrogen sulfide, a toxic, highly flammable, and corrosive compound. A critical combination of a poorly equipped wellhead lacking a blowout preventer and steel that was not designed to endure such abrasive conditions led to catastrophic failure. As the gas surged uncontrollably, an unknown ignition source triggered a massive explosion, ejecting the wellhead from its borehole like a missile and engulfing the drilling rig in flames. The fire melted large portions of the steel structure, leaving the crew scrambling to contain the disaster. Efforts to stabilize the spiraling situation failed as procedure was ignored, and the panicked workers worried about survival. Within hours, the underground pressure unleashed a ferocious blowout, creating a towering column of fire that shot nearly 400 feet into the sky. The fire's intensity defied all expectations. Some of the engineers predicted the gas would lose pressure in a couple of days, and that the fire would be easily put out, but they could not be farther from the truth. Crews worked urgently to clear the mangled remains of the rigging structure using tractors, but the blaze did not lose even a little of its initial potency. Each passing day, the inferno consumed over 12 million cubic meters of gas, enough to meet the daily energy needs of a metropolis the size of Leningrad. The scale of the disaster was appalling, transforming the well site into a humiliating demonstration of Soviet hubris, human error, and technological limitations when working with raw natural forces. And there was no solution in sight. Soviet firefighting teams launched an all-out effort to extinguish the raging inferno at the Urtabulak gas field. The fire, consuming millions of cubic meters of natural gas daily, defied every conventional method employed against it. Engineers first proposed installing a specialized cap with a pressure relief system. In theory, this device would divert the gas flow into 2 nearby reinforced discharge pipes, easing the pressure that fueled the main torch, which would in turn allow firefighting teams to put it out. A month later, in January 1964, a partial cap was applied, momentarily slowing the blaze. The plan seemed to actually be working. However, fate had very different plans. As the engineers attempted to divert the gas, new craters rich in hydrogen sulfide burst open, spewing toxic fumes and reigniting the fire's momentum. The air became heavy with toxic pollutants, creating an unbreathable, lethal environment that stretched for miles. Despite these setbacks, the crews persisted, employing Russian field artillery and water cannons in increasingly desperate attempts to smother the flames. The idea was to make the very stone walls of the well collapse to seal the massive leak. As the days became weeks, and weeks turned into months, the towering column of fire began to take its toll on the environment. Migratory birds, drawn by the intense light of the fire, plunged toward the flames. Swarms of insects followed, their bodies consumed, incinerated instantly. The challenges were exacerbated by the high concentrations of hydrogen sulfide in the gas and the incomplete preparation of the well. The lower 1,000 meters of the borehole had not been cemented, making it impossible to control the underground flow. Worse still, the exact location of the well's bottom remained unknown due to incomplete logging at the time of the accident. As the fire roared on, the Soviet government turned to radical solutions. With the fire close to reaching 1,000 days of uninterrupted burning, engineers considered using an underground nuclear detonation to collapse the well and seal the gas flow. a strategy as audacious as it was desperate. Physicists determined that detonating a 30-kiloton nuclear bomb, double the power of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, at a depth of 1,500 meters near the well shaft would generate enough force to collapse the surrounding rock, sealing the gas reservoir and snuffing out the flames. The plan was as audacious as it was frightening. 2 angled boreholes were drilled toward the blowout point. Meticulous calculations were done before every procedure, as a single wrong move during the drilling could lead to a second leak or a worsening of the first. The most promising borehole became the delivery path for the nuclear charge, an elongated cylinder designed to withstand the immense pressure of its task. After lowering the device into place, engineers backfilled the shaft with cement to prevent any explosion debris or gas from reaching the surface. Every detail of the operation was scrutinized by a government commission composed of physicists, geologists, natural gas specialists, and designers. With the timing device set, the team braced themselves for the final climactic moment. On a cold autumn day in 1966, the bomb was detonated. The Soviet newspaper Pravda Vostoka of Tashkent captured the scene with vivid detail. Quote, "An underground tremor of unprecedented force shook the ground with its sparse grass cover on white sand. A dusty haze rose over the desert. The orange-colored torch of the blazing well diminished, first slowly, then more rapidly, until it flickered and finally died out. For the first time in 1,064 days, quiet descended on the area. The jet-like roar of the gas well had been silenced. The explosion was a triumph of precision and ingenuity. Within 20 seconds, the 3-year blaze was extinguished. What had seemed unquenchable, an endless stream of flames consuming millions of cubic meters of gas daily, was vanquished by the unimaginable force of a nuclear detonation. The Urtabulak explosion marked a turning point in firefighting and engineering history. For the Soviet engineers and firefighters who had worked on the problem for years, it was a moment of immense satisfaction, proving that even the most uncontrollable forces of nature could be tamed by human determination and ingenuity. For the first time in years, the desert was silent. The Urtabulak operation was hailed as an extraordinary success, marking the first time a peaceful nuclear explosion was used to seal a gas well. It became a blueprint for future interventions, and nearly 2 years later, a similar detonation with a yield of 47 kilotons was carried out at the nearby Pamuk gas field to seal another runaway well. These events were evidence that the power of nuclear technology could be applied not only for destruction, but also to halt destruction. Despite the success, details of the explosion and its purpose remained classified until 1969, when the Soviet Union and the United States exchanged information on the peaceful uses of nuclear explosions. By the early 70s, the footage of the burning well and the fateful detonation finally emerged. However, the timing and location of the blast left room for speculation. The Urtabulak gas field lies roughly 1,000 miles southwest of the Semipalatinsk nuclear testing site, a region closely monitored by Western seismological stations as a hub for Soviet weapons testing. In the autumn of 1966, records showed an uptick in Soviet nuclear activity. On September 30th, the Uppsala Seismological Institute in Sweden reported a blast in Central Asia. 20 days later, both Uppsala and the United States Atomic Energy Commission detected another explosion. Finally, on October 27th, a massive 1 megaton detonation was recorded, more powerful than any U.S. underground explosion at the time. While officially a peaceful solution to a catastrophic industrial disaster, some questioned whether the Urtabulak explosion also served as a covert weapons test. The overlap in timing in the Soviet Union's active testing program cast a shadow of ambiguity over the operation. By 1969, the Urtabulak field resumed commercial production, and it became no more than a memory. Whether extinguishing the fire was the sole purpose of the detonation, or part of the nuclear weapons testing program, the event remains an incredible demonstration of the awesome dual-edged nature of nuclear technology, capable of both creation and destruction.